Welcome to the Murder Media podcast, where we analyse and overthink true crime media. I'm your host, Dr. Stella Marie Gaynor, and you can follow the Murder Media Project on Instagram at murdermedia81, that's the numbers 81, and on Facebook at Murder Media, and you can email the podcast direct at murdermedia81@gmail.com. I didn't breathe for any of that. Knackered. I hope everyone is good this week. I'm going to breathe. I'm not actually sure what week or what date this episode is actually going out. And the reason is I'm trying to be really pre-prepared and ready with podcast content recorded and ready to go in advance. And because this year is going to be busy as shit, I've got a detailed 8-month plan that I've told lots of people about. But I've got a detailed 8-month plan in order to get everything done. So the reason for the 8-month plan, which seems a bit psychotic, when I sat down to work again on the 6th of Jan, I was feeling really overwhelmed. So I sat down and planned out what needs doing each month to get it all done. And once I'd done that, I felt a lot better. But it's still a lot of stuff and it still needs doing according to the deadlines that I've set myself. But it means I can see the full year and I can see what needs doing and when it needs doing. And that stops me losing my mind. Anyway, the plan says that I need to get some episodes done and recorded before the madness hits with the next set of marking, and before I have a run of conferences and events that I'm either organising or speaking at, which means I'm writing and recording these ahead of time. So Christ knows what's actually going on with the world and what the world is actually like when I release this, but I hope you're okay and I hope you're still listening. What we've got today is, I was going to say a deep dive, but the phrase makes my teeth itch, so I'm not going to say that. We've got an investigation, an inquiry, a tumble down into the depths of YouTube, and of course the murder media that we find on YouTube. In series 1, I looked at Bailey Sarian and her murder mystery and makeup series, and I looked closely at her episode of Old Bullshit Bundy. I was comparing Bailey's presentation of Bundy and the women that he killed to other texts that tell the story of the same case. I also looked at Glam and Gore in series 1, that's a YouTube channel, and I looked at their episode which took place at the Lizzie Borden crime scene. In my episode on Glam and Gore, I mentioned various YouTube conventions, the nudges to like and subscribe, the direct-to-camera address, and the insertion of text cards. So in the Glam and Gore episode, Mikey, she uses the cards from SpongeBob SquarePants, you know, 1 eternity later, 3 million years later, etc. Using cards like that and borrowing from other media has a meme-like quality. YouTubers, regardless of the theme of their content, all use these now recognised conventions which build and layer multiple meanings which spread, like a thought virus, spread it through media. So what we're going to do today then is look at murder media on YouTube, which is a very contemporary example of true crime. The true crime documentary, the true crime film, the TV drama, even the novel, they've been around for decades. The true crime story told while someone puts their makeup on is probably not something that anybody saw coming 15 years ago, but here we are. You know I love Bailey Sarian. Today though, I want to talk about another brilliant YouTuber, Brittany Vaughn. Honestly, go and watch her videos. Her delivery, her tone, her makeup skills, they're all brilliant and she's beautiful. It's fantastic. Go and watch her. I'll link her account in the show notes, of course, but if you just search Brittany Vaughn, Vaughn, then you'll find her. In this episode, I want to frame Brittany Vaughn's murder media inside a discussion of the political economy of YouTube. Now, you all know that I love looking at media text by looking at media industries. I like unpacking media structures, ownership, industry conditions, and production practices, and what all of that does to the media product. For YouTube, how do the conditions of YouTube impact the murder media text? Let's start with some broader definitions and frameworks. Okay, so I just mentioned political economy. What is it? The study of political economy is examining and exploring how societies are organised and controlled. It's an analysis of power. Political economy of media and communications is all about looking at media and communications as commodities produced by a capitalist industry, uncovering connections between ownership, looking at corporate struggles and strategies, looking at finances, capital and market structures, looking at all these to show how the economies affect technology, politics, culture and information. Now I realise that sounds dull as shit, but I promise it's not. Stay with me. In this case, YouTube will look at how media is controlled and organised, who has the power to make decisions about media, who benefits from those decisions, and what effect does that have on the cultural commodity. In this case, it's the YouTube content and Brittany Vaughn's video about Peter Sutcliffe. We can't talk about YouTube and how it works and why it works like that without talking about algorithms. Now don't worry, this isn't going to turn into a tech bro podcast talking about hacking the algorithm, because guess what? You can't hack the algorithm. But we do need to talk about what they are, not the tech bros, the algorithms, to talk about what they are and why they are in order to see the impact it has on true crime content and the videos that Brittany Vaughn makes. A podcast on what tech bros are and why they are is something entirely. Something I just don't have time for. Right, what the hell is an algorithm? It is a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by computers. Yep, it's boring. But the YouTube algorithm has a certain set of goals, and these goals are black boxed, meaning that what the algorithms are doing and why they're doing it, how the algorithms are tweaked, is not actually made public. It's not known by those on YouTube creating content. So, again, for the tech bros, that's why you can't hack the algorithm, you dicks, because you don't know what it is. Anyway, the algorithm was not always in place on YouTube. It has been tweaked and adjusted to meet shifting goals over the life of YouTube to match the shifting aims and strategies and goals of the company and its owners. So to see these changes, let's go back to the start of YouTube and its launch in 2005. Founded in 2005, which is wild to think about. YouTube is 20 years old, Jesus Christ. But when YouTube started, people saw the video sharing site as a democratizing media platform because it converted media consumers into producers. It was going to reshape and enhance the landscape of media. So it was quite a utopian vision of what YouTube could be. But of course, corporations saw it as a gold mine of effortless profit. With millions and then quickly billions of eyeballs looking at YouTube, the potential for huge revenue for YouTube and advertisers was seen. Clear tension here was between the democratizing goals of YouTube and its economic potential. The early tagline of YouTube was broadcast yourself. Do you remember that? By 2007, YouTube was not really a commercial hit. There were some ad sales being shared with creators, but money was still tight. The economic model here then, back in 2007, was the team of Cool Hunters, a bunch of people who decided which videos would be on the YouTube channel homepage. Cool Hunters was not, of course, their actual name. That was just some irritating Californian nickname that they gave themselves. You know the type. Anyway, they decided which videos to push, some of which had adverts, and that advertising revenue was split between YouTube and the creators. Cool Hunters would search and find videos to put on the featured videos banner at the bottom of each homepage. So you'd open up YouTube and across the bottom there would be a banner of chosen featured videos. Each video got 4 hours on there, then the featured videos would change. So they tried various things to kind of theme it, I suppose. So for example, Halloween 2007, Rob Zombie was invited to curate the featured videos. A bit later then, Google buys YouTube, and in the early years, Google left YouTube alone, but the Google way, I guess, started to trickle in. Andy Stack, former YouTube manager, said, "The Google way of solving problems is to throw machines at them, not people." That was a quote. End quote. The problem was that YouTube was not making money. The solution was algorithms. Early algorithms were simple. They were mainly used to fill the related videos side flanks. So when you opened up a video and you watched it, the algorithm would suggest videos to you down the side. The early algorithms accounted for co-visitation, so people who liked this also liked that. They had a limited capability though. Staff at YouTube used to joke that you were only ever 2 videos away from Justin Bieber. Programmers went back to the drawing board. They added more filters, including decency, into the code. It began measuring signals for how long people stayed on videos, what time of day they watched, where they were watching from. And by 2009, Google higher-ups were not sure about the Cool Hunter team. As YouTube launched in more countries, a curational team in each country to find the cool videos felt too costly and too time-consuming. And also the team didn't fit with the hands-off, broadcast yourself approach. The team couldn't sift through all the millions of videos quick enough. By 2009, Facebook was doing very well with personalised content attracting users and ads. So in 2010, the Cool Hunters was disbanded. Google then, so we need to look at them to understand how their influence changed YouTube. Promise it's still not a tech podcast. Since 2005, 99% of Google revenue comes from ads. This is a fundamental problem of commercial media companies, i.e. those that are for profit. How to translate cultural goods to revenue and profit. Product scarcity is the foundation of supply and demand, right? So it's hard to establish cultural commodities as scarce if they are intangible and reusable without limits. So you can't have it, you can't hold it in your hand. There's no limits to how many versions of a YouTube video there can be. Demand for cultural goods is also hard to predict. There's lots of risk. So strategies are either ensure value through access limits, through distribution methods or copyright. You can have a constant supply of media like 24-hour news, for instance, or you've got the sale of audiences to the advertisers like on ITV, NBC, Fox or Google, and then YouTube. In 2007, YouTube had 72 million unique monthly users, viewing 100 million videos a day. The question was how to turn that huge audience into revenue, and the term they use is monetization. If you've ever been on YouTube, you've heard that word before. Generally, media industries view any media tech or form as another mode of exploiting captive audiences for profit and selling that audience to advertisers. In 2009, industry rhetoric was that monetization was essential to the survival of internet sites and platforms. It's a really old, entrenched way of thinking about media. It assumes that every media outlet demands adverts. I mean, just look at Netflix, right? If you're on the lowest tier, the lowest subscription level, like I am, then, you've got ads. Again, one of the things about Netflix was that there was no ads, but now there is. Anyway, I've had that rant before, haven't I? So, I know we're getting into the weeds of corporate strategy here, and we will get to the murderers shortly, I promise. As of 2022, the YouTube algorithm had 5 fundamentals. So the first one is designed to keep people on the platform for as long as possible. That's what it wants the content creators to do. Watching videos for as long as possible so YouTube can run as many ads as possible and make more money. So the content creators, your YouTubers, they need to align with this goal to keep folks on YouTube. They need to have links to other videos, tell them about previous ones, have a series, etc. The second is that YouTube AI starts to analyse a video as soon as it's uploaded. It knows more about the video than just what's in the metadata or the tags. It collects information on the video frame by frame. It identifies things like scene changes, objects, people, places, facial expression. Then YouTube analyses what people do with the video. It analyses the user, the watcher, the subscriber behaviour. Do they click on it? How long do they watch it? Do they like it? The third is that YouTube changes its ranking system a lot. It was looking for optimising for clicks and views. It used to be that 30 seconds counted as a view. That led to clickbait content. Users complained. Then the system was evolved to promote watch time over views and clicks, keeping you on YouTube for as long as possible, and user satisfaction to assess the quality of your watch time. The fourth is that it's not just one YouTube algorithm, that it's a complex collection of different decision models, personalised to the viewer and to the perceived intent of the viewer at the time. There's different decision models for search, suggested, home, trending, subscription tabs, and noticeability. When you search, you are actively giving YouTube information about what you want. YouTube then tries to find the video that has the highest chance of matching what you are looking for, that will keep you interested and keep you on the platform. And then the fifth, YouTube doesn't hate small creators, it just has more data about big videos or big creators. More data equals better predictions. So we'll turn to Sophie Bishop's work now, and I'll link her article in the show notes. Bishop talks about how creators make content that aligns with the algorithm goals, which themselves align with the advertiser's needs. This is contrary to the participatory or the open conception of YouTube. Think back to political economy. YouTube is owned by Google, who are a profit-oriented company that produces audiences as commodities for adverts. The YouTube algorithm privileges content that drives consumption. This will be better for the advertisers, so content that pushes viewers to buy, pushes viewers to consume. Beauty and fashion do particularly well here. So here we've got Brittany Vaughn slowly creeping into the discussion, right? To be visible, understanding and working with the YouTube algorithm, this is embodied in the practices of the creators on YouTube. These practices, to be visible, influence self-presentation. It influences a creator's tone of voice, their choice of content, even the words used and the structure of their sentences in the YouTuber's scripts. If the algorithm is aligned with the political economy of Google, providing audiences for advertisers, this will determine and limit what is seen and discussed by viewers. For creators, this means there's a narrow pathway to success. To quote Sophie Bishop, quote, "The employed engineers who design and write the platform's algorithmic signals are the primary architects of content creators' visible cultural output," end quote. So in short, videos that align with the commercial goals do better. To get the advertising money, YouTube had to extend its control over the YouTube community and the content. Those that complied with the advertisers' demands were rewarded. The YouTubers, though, they need to cultivate a persona that is trustworthy, that is relatable, especially if they're selling you something. Now, I'm not saying that all YouTubers, hashtag not all YouTubers, that they're not trustworthy or relatable, but they need to make that clear on their channels that they are. And this leads to performed authenticity. They must appear authentic. So to do this, YouTubers frequently do things like have blooper reels, showing mistakes, letting their pets wander into the background. All of these are authenticity markers. Creators who don't fit established genres will lose out. The algorithm guides female creators then to commercially recognised feminized content, rewarding complicity with visibility. That's why it's really hard for women to make content that is not beauty, fitness or lifestyle. Really hard to get noticed. I I said back in series 1 when I discussed Bailey Sarian that actually makeup and murder does go together very well, despite at first glance seeming quite an odd choice. But as I said then, true crime is positioned as women's stuff, and of course so is makeup. Now obviously these things are not just for women. Anyone and everyone can enjoy true crime, and anyone and everyone can enjoy makeup. But when we turn to the conditions of YouTube and the algorithm, grisly murder stories and gruesome crime scenes are being told alongside the gendered content which the algorithm privileges. There are male YouTubers who talk about true crime, of course. Mr. Bollen, for instance, is another channel that I recommend. He's great, he talks about true crime, but he just sits there. He doesn't put makeup on. That's not to say that all women either on YouTube who do true crime put makeup on. Lots don't. Emma Kenny, for instance, another excellent channel. But aligning the true crime stories with makeup tutorials is a method of combining two elements which perform well according to the YouTube metrics. Okay, Brittany Vaughn. We got there. So Brittany has 275,000 subscribers. She started her channel in 2016 and started making true crime videos in 2019. She directly cites Bailey Sarian as her inspiration, and also Better Off Red and Bella Flory. Hey, where's the rest of my script? Oh no! I'm looking for my script. If it's all gone, I'm going to cry my eyes out. No. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading. Okay, I think we're there. Yeah. Where did I get to? Okay, here we are. Whew. Brittany's videos hit the YouTube algorithm fundamentals, and the videos engage with YouTube conventions. When we think about the political economy of YouTube, we can also see the impact, the effect of this in Brittany's videos. So YouTube makes money from adverts, right? So it's best that a YouTuber keeps viewers on the platform for as long as possible. In Brittany Vaughn's case, this is done through the telling of true crime stories that are frequently long, detailed, and require a long time to tell. With true crime hitting familiar and expected story points, it suits the long-form preferences of YouTube. A true crime story like the one I've looked at from Brittany Vaughn, Peter Sutcliffe. Brittany looks at the upbringing, the early years of all these killers. She starts in the childhood, giving us the now expected background of a serial killer in which we hope to find some reason for why they did what they did. With Sutcliffe, Vaughn explores his childhood and explains that he had, in her words, a weird vibe. That Vaughn goes into such detail long before any murders makes sure that the videos are long, at least 30 minutes, and up to an hour and 20 minutes in some cases. This then allows for plenty of adverts, the one before the video even starts, and then more adverts roughly every 11 minutes. When I'm watching the video Vaughn makes to tell the Sutcliffe story, the algorithm has the side right flank of suggested videos, offering me either more content from Vaughn or more true crime content from other YouTubers, keeping me on the platform for as long as possible. Because every time I go on YouTube, and you as well, every time I go on and every click I make, the algorithm stores and uses that information. It knows that I like true crime, so it knows that if I'm watching Brittany Vaughn, I might then watch another video of hers, and then I might watch Bailey. True crime is a good fit for YouTube then. Long stories make long videos, and plenty of stories to make lots of videos. There's plenty of true crime about, right? And it all helps to keep you on the platform, or keep me on the platform, no, and you as well, so that we see lots of adverts. Some of which are more annoying than others. No, Wix, I'm not building my own website. So true crime is also not too much of a risk. In the political economy of YouTube, remember that problem of media companies translating cultural goods that are intangible, into profit? One way, as I said, was to sell audiences of these cultural goods to the advertisers. Fans of true crime, well, we're a loyal bunch. We like our murder media, and we like a lot of it, and we like it available on demand. So true crime content is low risk. I remember when me and Shelley were talking about how if it doesn't matter how many Ted Bundy media documentaries on MediaText there are, then we're going to watch it. Think of it like that, right? Brittany Vaughn could do a video on Ted Bundy. I think she has done. Brittany Vaughn could do this video on Sutcliffe that I'm going to talk about now. I've seen lots of other things about Sutcliffe, but I'm going to watch this one as well. So true crime content is then therefore low risk because we'll just rewatch the same story about the same arseholes again and again. So true crime then, it's low risk for content creators and it's low risk for YouTube. Basically, we'll keep coming back for more. Let's think about these algorithm fundamentals some more. The ranking system, as gathered via data collection by the algorithm and understood by YouTubers in their metrics, this will tell Brittany Vaughn quite clearly which videos do well. We can see this in her switch to true crime and makeup 3 years after she'd been on the channel making content. She would have seen what this content did to her viewership. On top of this, her content, because it aligns with the algorithmic goals and the political economies of Google and YouTube, will get pushed to people on the platform. Her content, long form, loyal true crime audience, all also drives consumption. She gives information on each makeup product that she uses. As she starts to apply an eyeshadow base or a blush or mascara, the name of the product appears at the bottom of the screen. It's a pinky lilac banner that goes from left to right with the brand name inside it. So Rare Beauty, Urban Decay, Fenty, not sponsored, I wish, with the brand name in this kind of italicized curly font. This is quite feminine in its design. Remember, gendered content does well on YouTube. Women plus makeup equals revenue. Brittany Vaughn is a skilled makeup artist. Her looks are really great. They're detailed, they're polished, and she sells the makeup well because the makeup looks good on her. She uses it correctly, so people buy it. Now I've got my hand up, even though it's an audio medium. I've bought makeup products because I've seen Bailey Sarian using them, and I'm not ashamed of that. Brittany's videos, driving consumption, remember, which YouTube likes, also has in her metadata, so that's the text in the grey box underneath the YouTube video, she has in there a prompt for her viewers to tap the screen to view the product links. You tap it and you go direct to a web page where you can buy exactly what she was using for this week's makeup look. Before we get to hearing from Brittany herself, I have one more point on the combination of makeup and true crime that, well, I can't possibly know if the algorithm likes it or not because it's black boxed, remember? The murder, true crime and makeup video, the construction of these things together, acts in a way that speaks to contemporary media consumption habits. It's very much like the practice of second screening. Now come on, we all do it, we all gaze at our phones and we've actually put a film on the telly. According to Nielsen, they aggregate the viewing figures in the US for telly, amongst other things. Nielsen found in 2022, 45% of audiences are using a second screen with the purpose of added or extra entertainment to their primary screen. It was found that most, quote, use multi-screens in a manner unrelated to the primary content, end quote. And that quote is from Neon Dozier. I'll put it in the show notes, of course. So Brittany Vaughn and Bailey and Better Off Red, they provide the primary content, the true crime story, and she also supplies what might be on a second screen, in this case, the makeup application. So we're watching these videos as viewers or subscribers. As we're watching, we're multitasking. We're watching makeup application, listening to a story, and like a podcast listener, we're constructing the images in our own heads, providing our own visuals for the oral story. And I think that this is really significant because media companies are well aware of second screening. They know our attention is not as undivided as it was. So think what that means for advertisers. We're not really paying attention anymore. In providing two distinct forms of content in one place, true crime and makeup, Brittany Vaughn is arguably reducing the risk of her audience's second screening by providing what contemporary viewers would seek out, two types of media at the same time. Okay, I think it's time we heard from Brittany Vaughn. I'm going to look at one of her episodes which tells the story of Peter Sutcliffe. Vaughn sits in a domestic setting. We can see in her background that this isn't a studio, it's clearly a room in her house. Vaughn explains about her dogs. They've been sleeping, but she didn't use that time to make a video. In recording while the dogs are kind of mooching around, the dogs can be seen in the background every now and then. Vaughn assures a degree of authenticity. She becomes relatable to us. In the Sutcliffe video, Vaughn is wearing a silk robe, or in the UK, a dressing gown. She's relaxed, she's calm, she's framed in her domestic space. It's like we've gone round to her house for a chat. The way she explains about the dogs being around is very much like when we go to a mate's house and they say, oh, excuse the mess, even though it's never messy. But the acknowledgement of her domestic setting and the things that go on in her home, dogs mooching about, further positions Brittany Vaughn and her videos as an intimate chat between two pals. Throughout Vaughn's videos, and this is a common convention of YouTube, her camera goes in and out of focus as she moves her hand around in front of her face to apply makeup. Common to YouTube, even creators who don't do makeup, so Peter Mon's camera does it, for instance, all the time. And as YouTube viewers, we're used to this. We kind of expect it of our friendly, just like us, relatable YouTubers. If we were watching a glossy drama and the focus kept pulling like that, we'd wonder what the hell was going on. But here on YouTube, it again adds to that degree of authenticity. Vaughn gets into the story. She describes Sutcliffe's childhood and that he was a loner, and then she talks about his job as a gravedigger with her usual humour.
Described as being pretty much the same throughout his entire childhood, a loner as well as a strange and lost child. Peter does not do so well in school, and quite frankly, by the age of 15, he just gets tired of the school thing, and so he decides he's going to drop out and just find him a little job, take life from there. Now he finds himself a couple of little menial jobs here and there, but one that particularly interested him and that he was extremely excited about was being a grave digger. Now, it was not about a fascination with like death or graveyards, anything spooky, and none of the things like that. The job is really just you digging rectangles in the ground, child. It's not about to expose you to anything more sinister than that. See, as a grave digger,
her gentle voice and soft tone, alongside her warm accent, juxtaposes the grim details that she recounts. That she speaks in a soft, quiet voice adds to this feeling of intimacy. Vaughn isn't yelling at us. She isn't like some of the larger-than-life creators on other YouTube channels. You know the ones who just yell and bellow and wave their arms about. So in Murder Media, I'm looking at how these stories are told and retold across media. The Sutcliffe case has plenty of existing media, so we need to think about why come to Brittany Vaughn to hear the story again. It's clear from the comment section that some of Vaughn's subscribers had not heard the Sutcliffe case, and then there were plenty that already knew it, and even comments from subscribers that are from the area where the case happened. So why then do people come back for another retelling? Now Shelley and I talked about this, sort of this idea of being in the know, you know, that privileged position, the pleasure of being in the know. But it's like the podcasts that compress with comedy. It's like Spencer Henry of Cult Leader. It's not just hearing the story again, but it's the way that the story is told. So in this case, it's the way that Brittany Vaughn tells it. Vaughn's idiolect brings us frequent uses of the word cis to refer to players in the true crime story that she's telling. She uses cis to refer to Sutcliffe, yet cis is generally used as a term of endearment, of camaraderie, as a way of expressing a close relationship with people that you know. When Vaughn uses it here to refer to Sutcliffe, it has this kind of patronising and condescending air to it. It takes him out of his position of infamy, out of his position of power, and much like podcasts like All Killer No Filler or Cult Leader, it mocks Sutcliffe. Now Vaughn is really funny. I think her videos make me proper belly laugh. Here's a clip of Vaughn talking about how, having successfully killed someone, Peter spends a lot of time in his fantasies.
Unfortunately for Tracy, although she is badly injured, she does survive the ordeal, which was completely unexpected for Peter. At this point, Peter is like, what the fuck? Because I have a whole hammer out here. Surely multiple blows with a hammer should cause some fatalities. But here I am, just badly injuring people. Like, what's going on? He then vows to put a little bit more enthusiasm behind his blows. And on October 30th, just 3 days after the attack on Tracy, he sets eyes on a young mother of 4 children. Her children were really young. Their ages were like 2 to 7. He spots her one night walking alone and approaches her from behind using the same MO from the previous ladies, but the injuries that he inflicts on this woman were a lot more gruesome because, like I said, he was determined to take it all the way. And that is what he does. Afterward, there is no remorse whatsoever. It is actually quite the opposite. Instead, he felt a thrill that was greater than he had ever imagined it would be. He also feels a sense of pride in the fact that he had finally successfully carried out one of his fantasies in full. From here, his daydreaming goes from what he would like to do to one of these women to the things that he had actually done. These are the things that occupied his mental space when he was just seemingly staring into space. In private, he would rub one out while thinking of these things. Now, Peter had a disdain for all women. Women involved in sex work he particularly hated because he felt they were loose women and that they were dirty and filthy and all of that, right? And women who were not involved in any of the things, especially attractive women, he particularly disliked because these women, he felt, could have whatever they want because men would give it to them simply because they were attractive. And he was truly disgusted at the lengths that men will go to satisfy and please these women. He also did not like the fact that they were never interested in him. I think that's just where it starts and ends. Sis was just jealous and upset. After this discovery is made, there is a lot of pressure on police to find out who had done this. Over 150 officers were involved at some point during the investigation. And over 11,000 interviews were conducted with people who could have possibly been persons of interest. Now, while the block is hot, child, all of these interviews going on, and with his thirst being satisfied for the moment, he decides to lay low for a bit. For the last 2 months in 1975, he does not go out and attack anyone. No more discoveries are made. No arrests are made either because they could not figure out who was responsible. By late January of 1976, his thirst has returned, and it is too much for him to continue to ignore. At this point, he feels like it is worth the risk to go out and do this again. 42-year-old Emily Jackson, she was experiencing a financial hardship and was persuaded by her husband to go out and enter the world of sex work. Dear future husband, we gonna sell your ass before we sell mine. Just know that. Make no mistake about it, okay? Anyway, they decide.
The softness is also in Vaughn's choice of phrase for certain things. She describes sex workers as ladies of the night. She never uses the word prostitute and she rarely swears. Vaughn's persona is friendly, measured and easygoing. She addresses the camera in a close-up shot. Now the close-up of course helps us see the makeup application, but it also creates that feeling of intimacy. We are sat close to Vaughn. It's like we're leaning in to hear her story. Vaughn only tells the Yorkshire Ripper story from the perspective of Sutcliffe. She starts with the childhood, the grave digging, the attacks, the kills, Sutcliffe's marriage and later nightmares, and then the arrest and trial. Vaughn explains how Sutcliffe came clean to his wife Sonia and explained to Sonia and the police that he was hearing voices from God. Here Vaughn includes a typical convention of YouTube. After she explains that Sutcliffe claimed he was on a mission from God, she blinks her now false lashed eyes in a moment of humour with a now almost customary piano tap sound effect on the blinks. This sound. If you've ever seen any cartoons, you'll see and hear this gag. If you've ever seen any YouTube videos, you'll also have seen and heard this gag. The piano tap blink, I think that's what we'll call it, the piano tap blink has developed across YouTube like a meme. Many YouTubers include it to represent a shortcut to meaning. The piano tap blink indicates incredulousness, a part of the story that is unbelievable because it's ridiculous. In this case, Vaughn indicates to us the madness of Sutcliffe, claiming that he was on a mission from God. It was clear in 1980 when he was arrested, or was it 81? I don't know. About then, wasn't it? Anyway, it was clear back then that this claim was horseshit, as the courts and jury not only found Sutcliffe sane and able to stand trial, but guilty on all counts. He did get a diagnosis later of paranoid schizophrenia, but even that was overturned. Is that the right word? Either way, he went back to regular prison after a stint in hospital. So Vaughn adopts a familiar to YouTube convention which, like a modern meme, takes an existing piece of media and develops it to represent something else, something adjacent, something with layered meanings that are more rewarding to the viewer the more time the viewer has spent, in this case, on YouTube. Interestingly, Vaughn leaves out the letters and the tapes from Wearside Jack from her telling of the Sutcliffe case. This does change the slant of the Sutcliffe story, I think, whereas other texts that deal with the Yorkshire Ripper include much more about the investigation, or rather the botched investigation. In doing that, they offer commentary on how Sutcliffe got away with it for so long. So I'm thinking of The Long Shadow on ITV or the BBC4 doc about it. Vaughn sticks with Sutcliffe and his drive to keep killing. Vaughn makes it clear that Sutcliffe was able to stop killing for periods of time where the heat on him became too much. This suggests, as the comment section on Vaughn's video says, suggests that Sutcliffe was more in control of his actions than his later claims to be being used by God say he was. This is perhaps a subtle omission by Vaughn to leave out the tapes, but when we look at the murder media in this way, by considering the stories as they move across media, what is done with them, what's changed, I think it's interesting to note the perspective this omission adds. If a lot of the story hinges on the investigation and how much they completely fucked it, then it seems that Sutcliffe killed more because the police let him. Leave out the investigation and the story takes the line that Sutcliffe killed more because he wanted to. Now of course, the truth is usually somewhere in between. Vaughn finishes her Sutcliffe story by discussing what happened after he died in prison. As far as I know, it was COVID that got him and he didn't pass easy. Oh well. Vaughn explains that his wife, or ex-wife by then, Sonia, held a private funeral for him. None of his family, none of his remaining family, were invited. And then Vaughn closes her video with her final thought on Sutcliffe with, "He was a horrible little man, and I couldn't put it better myself." So that's Brittany Vaughn. She's got loads of videos on her channels. Do go and have a look. You'll be really glad that you did. If you like Bailey Sarian, if you like Better Off Red, then you'll love Brittany Vaughn. If you just like true crime, if you like having somebody chatting away in the background, somebody with a lovely voice, you're going to love it. I can't wait for you to go and have a look. So like I said at the start, I'm recording these episodes ahead of time and possibly in an order that's not the same as how they'll be released. So I can't tell you what's going on next week because I don't know. I do know that you can follow the Murder Media Project on Instagram at murdermedia81 and on Facebook, and you can email me at murdermedia81@gmail.com. That's numbers 81. If you could like and rate the podcast over on the iTunes gubbins, that'd be great as well. Alright, so have a good week and I'll be back next week with something that I don't know what it is. Goodbye.